Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, here on this wonderful Friday afternoon, and we have a lot to talk about in basketball. This is probably going to be one of the more livelier sections of the entire podcast for today, because in the first segment we're going to talk about United States advancing and beating Serbia in their most recent matchup in the Olympics. And then in the second segment, I'm also going to continue talking about the game and more focused on the fact that Jayson Tatum once again did not see the floor at all in this crazy game between Serbia and the United States. So I'm just going to talk about that in the second segment. Then in the third segment, I'm going to shift my focus to NBA basketball because the Christmas Day games have been revealed. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that in the third segment. And then in the fourth segment, I saw an article saying that there was an alleged 3-team trade that is in the works that features D'Angelo Russell and is supposed to help the Lakers retool. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that because the Lakers haven't done anything in the offseason, and this would really be the first move that they actually do. We also have a special fifth segment at the end of the fourth segment, so be sure to stay tuned for that and be sure to, understand, be sure to stay tuned till long enough so that way you guys know exactly what that segment is. I'm sorry that I, fumbled on those words. Before I begin, though, I like to let everyone know that, we love hearing the things that you have to say during our show. Whether you've got a question, whether you've got a hot take, or just something that you wanted to share, we're all ears and we listen. This show is all about keeping the conversation lively and making sure your voice is part of the mix. So be sure to drop something. Be sure to drop your thoughts in the chat. And if you really want to make sure your comment or question gets noticed, just use Super Chat. Just hit the $ below the chat box, send in your message, and it's guaranteed to get featured on the show. Plus, it's a great way to support our channel. Your Super Chats help us keep the lights on and bring you even more of the content you love. We're so grateful for each and every one of you who joins us here. Your support makes all the difference. So let's keep the conversation going. Send in those Super Chats, and together we can make the show even better. And if Super Chat isn't really your thing, maybe you're on the audio side, you also can go to gsmcsport.net to tip and donate and to leave your comment or question. It really helps the show, makes it much more interactive. We appreciate every bit of your support, and that's all that I have for that. So now let's go right ahead and go into the semifinal round. This was the game of the year. This game right here between the United States and Serbia. Game of the year. So much fun watching this. Probably the most fun I've had watching United States basketball ever. In a very long time. Since Kobe. And even then, all of those games with Kobe and LeBron in the Olympics, they were all blowouts. And aside from that, this one was not a blowout. It was far from a blowout. The United States actually started out losing. They went into the second half down by double digits, and for the majority of the game, they were down by double digits. It took a masterclass performance from Steph, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James to just make the comeback in the end. And yes, it was those three that the United States went to close the game out. They didn't go to Anthony Davis. They didn't go to Joel Embiid. They didn't go to Anthony Edwards. Didn't go to Jayson Tatum. Definitely didn't go to Jayson Tatum. Good Lord, he gets slandered too much. Didn't go to Drew. Didn't go to Derek. Didn't go to Devin Booker. None of them. It went to LeBron James, and it went to Steph Curry, and it went to Kevin Durant. And seeing those three play in the exact same jersey, and seeing those three perform the way that they did and answer the call when no one else was answering the call was just the child in me was going berserk, because it's this is the first time that we've actually seen all three of them on the exact same team. And it was nothing short of amazing. These guys played phenomenally. And for the majority of the game, it was the starters in the game. Now, really, if I as a fan, this game was great. But as an analyst, this game was horrible. I was furious throughout the majority of this game because several things went wrong. For one, the rotations were awful. That's one thing. Two, the rotations were awful. And three, the rotations were awful. That is everything that went wrong in this game. Serbia just, in the first half, they literally couldn't miss. They barely missed in the first half. They were hitting 3 after 3 after 3, and it was just maddening to watch because Steve Kerr refused to make any kind of substitutions, and no one on the team was really doing much. If it weren't for LeBron and if it weren't for Steph Curry, we would have lost this game. Steph Curry had a masterclass, 36 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists. Arguably the only three-point shooter on the entire United States team. He ended the game with 9 three-pointers. This is the most that any player has hit in the Olympics, which is insane. Now, LeBron, nothing to scoff at for LeBron either. LeBron ended the game with 16 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists. A triple-double. He is the only player in Olympic basketball history to drop multiple triple-doubles in Olympic play. Now, the other player that dropped a triple-double, the most recent one actually, was Luka Doncic. But LeBron, he ends up being the only player with multiple triple-doubles in the Olympics, which, further adds to his greatness on the court. And let's see, another player that stepped up exactly when we needed him to, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid, throughout most of the regular season, he always, dominates him. He always dominates Jokic. Most of the time, those games are in Philly, but regardless, Joel Embiid plays very well when Jokic is guarding him, And he ended the game with 19 points, was 8 for 11 from the field, and was also ended the game with 2 assists as well as 4 rebounds. Now, I mentioned Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant he didn't really score all that many points. He only scored 9, but he did hit the dagger in the final minutes of the game, which sealed the game and, helped the United States win in the end. And another thing that should also be mentioned was that the bench only scored 6 points. Not counting Kevin Durant, the bench scored 6 points in this game. With having an Avengers team score only 6 points off the bench is disgusting. It should never happen. And part of the reason why the bench scoring was so low was because they kept giving minutes to Derek White, they kept giving minutes to Drew Holiday, they kept giving minutes to Bam. Drew played 20 minutes. Drew has no business playing that long when there are so many other players coming off the bench that can just be better. And Derek White was only in there for 6 minutes, and those 6 minutes were agony. He couldn't defend a parked car. And that really says a lot because defense is the strongest part of his game. Bogdanovic, he was on a completely different level. This man was possessed. He had 20 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. And remember how in the last podcast I said that the United States were trying to limit Jokic's assists? Well, that didn't work. Jokic ended the game with 11 assists, 5 rebounds, and 17 points, which just goes to show just how ridiculous Serbia was from shooting the ball. Most of their points were scored most of their 3 balls were scored in the first half. After the first half, they couldn't hit a single 3 to save their life. And if they were to actually hit a little bit more 3s, they would have won this game, which just is unnecessary, unheard of. I'm going to go deeper into that in the next segment, but I'm mainly going to talk about this as a whole. This game should never have been as close as it was. But the fact that it was really close, it was a very fun game to watch. Again, Steph Curry, he had a masterclass. This was his game. He scored more points in this game than he did in the last 3 group play games, which, thank the Lord he did because we really needed him to play and we really needed him to step up the way that he did. LeBron, he always plays fantastic. But this is just it should never have gotten to this. It really should never have gotten to this. But I'm glad that it did. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of this game, because, I mean, this was a phenomenal game. Now, dating all the way back to 2008, LeBron James has now won 20 straight winner-take-all games. He's 6-0 in Game 7s, 8-0 in the Olympics, 3-0 in the play-in, and 3-0 in the in-season tournament. So he's just, padding his legacy a little bit there. And on top of that, this triple-double performance that he had in this game, let me just go ahead and pull up his stats. The triple-double performances is exactly 12 years apart from his last triple-double in the Olympics against Australia back in 2012, when he dropped 11 points, 14 rebounds, and 12 assists against Australia. So, if you want a GOAT, you want the greatest basketball player ever, he's him. He's right there. I mean, the longevity is there, the stats are there, the Olympic performances are there, everything that you could possibly check off of any kind of player's resume, it's all there. Like, he is a completely different monster. And now we're looking forward to the matchup between France and the United States in the finals. Now, I wanted to just, point out to everyone that this was my prediction throughout the entirety of the Olympics. I thought that this was exactly how the bracket was going to look, and it was almost one off because Serbia almost beat the United States. But aside from that, I was right. Whoopee, yay me, and thank the Lord. This is like the first time that I've actually ever gotten a bracket in any tournament, flawlessly right. And I guess it's not really fair, because these Olympic matchups in basketball, it's like exactly who's going to win. Like, aside from Canada and France, that was like the only time when I had no idea who was going to win. And I was a little bit scared against the United States and Serbia, but hoorah, America, USA, thank the Lord that the United States ended up winning. Jesus, it was insane. The game was you had to be there. You had to watch the game. You had to just to understand exactly how crazy it was, because it's just like what was happening, it shouldn't have happened. And I'm going to go a little bit further into that in this next segment, where I talk about Jayson Tatum and his minutes and how he just he did not play at all in that game. And I'm just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about that right after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this second segment, I'm going to be talking about Jayson Tatum and how he did not play yet again for the... There's a fly in my face, jeez. And how he did not play yet again for the United States. He logged in another did not play. And I'm just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about that and my very strong opinions about that. Before I begin, however, I like to remind everyone that we love hearing what you have to say, whether you've got a burning question, whether you got a hot take, or you got an opinion that you've been dying to share. We're all ears, so the show is about keeping the conversation lively, making sure that your voice is part of the mix. So don't be shy to drop your thoughts in the chat. If you really want to make sure your comment or question gets noticed, use Super Chat. Just hit the $ button below the chat box, send in your message, and it's guaranteed to get featured on the show. Plus, it's a great way to support our channel. Your Super Chats help keep us... Jeez, this fly is annoying me. I apologize for that. The Super Chat helps us keep the lights on and brings you even more of the content you love. So we're grateful for each and every one of you who joins us here, and your support makes all the difference. So let's keep the conversation going. Send in those Super Chats, and together we can make this show even better than it was before. If the Super Chat isn't really your thing, you can also use the link in the description, gsmcsports.net, to tip, donate, and leave your comment or question. We appreciate every single bit of your support. And with that out of the way, let's go right ahead and talk about Jayson Tatum not playing in this game. So, let's talk about, primarily the first half, because that first half that I watched was abysmal. It was horrible. The only bright side about the first half was Stephen Curry. Aside from that, awful. Terrible basketball being played by the United States. Terrible defense being played by the United States. That is one of the things that I did not expect the United States to really lack at. There was no effort on the defensive side of the ball in the first half. Zero. No one was making rotations. People were letting the players shoot. And Serbia was burning them. Every single time a player even had a smidge little bit of room, just a little bit of room, they would shoot and they would make the shot. It was appalling. And it was every single time, it's what they were doing, but for some reason the United States was just so lazy they didn't want to contest it. And it baffled me. It really confused me, because it's what are we doing out there? Why are we not playing defense? That's literally half the game. It's played on the other side of the court. I mean, for good teams, a little bit less than half, because you spend more time on offense, sure. But half the game is on the defensive side of the court. And we were not taking that half seriously at all. And it costed us. Another thing that costed us was, oh my gosh, Steve Kerr's rotations are horrible. They are horrible. I said it in the mic so that way all of you guys can hear it. Horrible. One of the things that Serbia was doing very well in this game was abusing the height mismatch. And, if only the United States had, a 6'10" small forward that can play pretty good defense and has some pretty decent length to combat their, tall, and to combat their height and just the advantage that they had on the guards. Oh, wait! We do! Jayson Tatum! You guys remember him? The 6'10" small forward that can play defense? Yeah, apparently Steve Kerr forgot all about him. I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what was wrong with him, but for some reason, Jayson Tatum did not play in this game. Why? There was no reason for him not to. Serbia, throughout the entirety of this game, was abusing the height mismatch, was abusing the fact that these three-point shooters can just shoot over Steph, can shoot over Drew Holiday, can shoot over Derek White, can shoot over Devin Booker. They could shoot over every single guard that was on the team. Why are you using Devin Booker to play defense late in the stretch when you have Jayson Tatum, a 6'10" small forward, that can actually contest Boban Bogdanovic? It doesn't make any sense to me. It genuinely does not make any sense. I don't know what Steve Kerr has been doing. I don't know if this is just a master plan that he has, but this was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And I'm sure a lot of you guys might, in the comments, you guys might be like, oh, but Tyrese Halliburton didn't play either. Why aren't you talking about him? Tyrese Halliburton shouldn't even be on the Olympic team. If we are being so for real, Halliburton does not deserve that Olympic roster spot at all. Oh my lord, I don't know how he made it on the team. It should have been Kyrie. Genuinely should have been Kyrie. But it really, these games, they just show that Halliburton doesn't belong on the team. Because it's he is so underutilized. I haven't seen him play a single game yet. I barely see him touch the court, and it just goes to show you just how meaningless he is for the team. And like, that's like, for lack of a better term, no player is meaningless, believe me, but it's like, that's sort of what it feels like, and that's the vibe that I'm getting. And Jayson Tatum should not be in that conversation of being useless for the United States roster. He is so much more talented than that. And I know I'm probably making TJ very happy right now with these with the Tatum praise, but it's like half of his game, like half of the reason why he's like so competent is because like not only is his offense all right, but his defense is also pretty good too. Like, that's one of the things, like, obviously, he molds his game after Kobe. And one of the things that Kobe took very seriously was defense. And, like, I have a feeling that in this game, like, if he were to play in this game, he would have defended the ever-living life out of everybody on the court. He would have played with hustle. He would have played with heart. I don't know why he was benched in this game. And he wasn't happy at all with being benched in this game. Like, he was furious as he walked off the floor following the win. And, I mean, I would be furious too, because it's like, he's 6'10", and he would definitely help on the perimeter, but no, let's continue playing Jrue Holiday, who for some reason had 20 minutes in this game. Doesn't make any sense. 0 sense was made in this game. And to make matters worse, Devin Booker, the one guy on the, like, he's not even known for defense. He's known for scoring, and guess what they used him for? Defense. Late in the game, like, Jokic was getting switched, like, he was switching on Jokic every single time. Now, tell me, why is Devin Booker switching on Jokic? You realize that Jayson Tatum can guard Jokic better than Devin Booker can, right? Like, why? Why are we even bothering going through this? It doesn't make any sense. These lineups are atrocious. This rotation is bad. I hope that Steve Kerr never, ever coaches for the United States ever again, because this is awful. In fact, this is probably going to be, if he coaches for FIBA, I think we're losing. I think we are losing if he coaches for FIBA, because there is no way that anyone in their right mind can make these kinds of rotations. Like, there are more players to use than just Jrue Holiday and Derek White. Why are you doing this? Like, it has to be some sort of agenda, because it doesn't make any sense how he's not playing Jayson Tatum. Like, what did he expect Tatum to do? Not, like, just take over the game? Like, why does he not? I don't understand. The only viable, I guess I could, like, solution is the one that I mentioned in the previous podcast, where he's trying to, derail the chemistry of the Boston Celtics, or he thinks that Tatum is a liability, which I don't think is true in the slightest. Tatum is not going to be a liability for your team down in the stretch. Like, I don't know, maybe, like, he thought that his Kobe fandom is going to get at him and be like, oh, I need to take the last shot. I gotta do this. But no, I don't think that would have happened. I genuinely don't think that would have happened. Like, he would have been a much better defender than Devin Booker and anyone else on the court. It doesn't make any sense why this man wasn't playing in this game. Steve Kerr is ridiculously lucky that this game wasn't a United States loss, because that's what it was looking like for a majority of this game. If it wasn't for Steph, if it wasn't for LeBron, if it wasn't for Kevin Durant saving this man's legacy, he would have been fired on the spot. I am sorry to say this. Anyone on the internet can do a better job at coaching this team than Steve Kerr. This is what it feels like, and I am sorry that, like, it's a little bit rude, given how, and it's also kind of mean saying that about somebody who has 4 championship rings and more as a player, but this move just doesn't make any sense. It genuinely doesn't. Like, I don't know how you can, in your right mind, not play Jayson Tatum in this kind of game. I don't know how in your right mind you can do that. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys think that Tatum should never have been playing? Do you guys think that, Steve Kerr is doing all right with the rotations? Because, I mean, in my opinion, this game should never have been close. We did not assemble an Avengers team for this game to be close. No, sir, we did not. And now, this is only scaring me for the future, because I have no idea how the United States is going to perform against France. Like, with the height advantage that France has, shoot, Jrue Holiday is going to play 30 minutes in this game. It's just, it is appalling. And it hurts me. It hurts me how this is just how the lineups are working and how the rotations are working. It genuinely hurts me because these games are close for no reason. But I rest my case. Now, with that out of the way, we can go ahead and go into the third segment where I talk about the Christmas Day games. They've just recently been revealed. The schedule for these games have been revealed. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about that in the third segment. So be sure to stay tuned for that right after this short break.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, I'm going to be talking about the Christmas Day games. They've recently just been leaked. They've been revealed. And I'm just going to go ahead and, talk a little bit about that. I'm also going to be reading it from this article because I don't have all the games memorized. I am not a super freak. But aside from that, so Christmas Day, for the NBA, it's arguably, it's the money day for the NBA. This is where they make the most money. And a lot of people, they tune into these Christmas Day games because it's that's usually the only sports game that is available there to watch. The NBA has dominated Christmas for what it feels like all time, right? There are so many Christmas matchups that you can name. There was the Golden State Warriors against the Cavs when they matched up in, I believe, 2017. There was also that Kobe matchup, I believe, against Houston. It was a long time ago. But most of the time, the Christmas Day games, they are the most watched games in the NBA, period. Now, given how the NFL is now bringing in Christmas Day games, the viewership is definitely going to tank because, let's face it, the NBA is never, ever going to compete with the NFL in terms of viewership. But still, the fact that the United States has games going on, from the afternoon all the way to night, it just shows you, they're very dedicated to this Christmas Day thing. And it's going to be, a lot, obviously, the viewership is going to be split. I'm probably going to watch both the NFL games and I'm going to watch the basketball games. It's not really going to be just me binging basketball because, football, America, I got to watch football. But the games that were just, leaked for the Christmas Day games, right? There are 5 games, obviously. There's always going to be 5 games on Christmas. And one of the highly anticipated matchups for Christmas is the 76ers against the Boston Celtics. Now, the Celtics are going to be hosting this game. And obviously, since they're reigning NBA champions, it only makes sense that they have a game on Christmas. The schedule will be rounded out by several clashes between starry clubs, from veteran-laden squads to young up-and-comers. Now, the Spurs, they're also expected to travel to Madison Square Garden to play the Knicks because it's you cannot have a Christmas Day game without the Knicks, especially when they're good. The Knicks, they seem to always get Christmas Day games, but the fact that they're good now just means, it's guaranteed that they're going to get Christmas games. And the fact that Victor Wembanyama is going to be playing in the Garden for this game, I think it's going to be very, very fun. I'm very excited for that game. Jalen Brunson will probably go off. Or maybe Victor Wembanyama is just going to put him in a jail cell and just block every single floater that man wants to take because he is so tall. But another matchup that is going to happen is a conference finals rematch. The Dallas Mavericks are going to go up against the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves are actually, no, I think the Mavericks are going to host this time around as opposed to the Timberwolves. And, this is going to be a very interesting game because now the Mavericks, they beat the Timberwolves in a series, and now they get better by adding in Klay Thompson. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup between these two teams, and I'm very excited to see how Klay Thompson is going to fare playing with Luka, how he's going to play with Kyrie, and things like that. And I'm also going to give, more opinions on these games, but I'm just going over the games that are happening. And then finally, of course, we have to have the Lakers playing on Christmas because it's like LeBron James. How could you not? And guess who they go up against? The Denver Nuggets. Now, obviously, that game is probably going to result in a Denver Nuggets win. Jamal Murray is probably going to get 35 points, and Jokic is probably going to get a triple-double. And the Nuggets are probably going to shoot 50% from three as a team. And I'm not exaggerating about this. This happens every time they play, and I don't understand it. In fact, you know what? Let me go ahead and talk about Jamal Murray. In the Olympics, he was awful. Absolutely horrible in the Olympics. But when he plays against the Lakers, God forbid he plays against the Lakers, because he turns into the reincarnate of Kobe, he turns into the reincarnate of Steph, he turns into the reincarnate of MJ. All of those players, if they were one player, he turns into that. And it makes zero sense because I don't know how Jamal Murray just only plays well against the Lakers, but he's going to have a Christmas Day game against them. So I think the Lakers are going to lose that game. Denver is easily going to wipe the floor with them. They're going to shoot 50% from the field and 50% from three, and they're just going to make a fool out of everyone on the Lakers. That's really how I see it going. And, that's my opinion for that game. So now for Philly, they overhauled its roster completely. So, they made it so that way, Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, along with the new addition of Paul George, could, thrive and could actually play really well under a system that works for them. And the Sixers, they ended up signing free agents like Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond, Eric Gordon, while also bringing in Kelly Oubre. They brought him back, so, very important player for the 76ers. And the Celtics, who's going to be their opponent that they go up against, they've also been able to retain every single key player to the championship team that ended up going 64-18 in the regular season and 16-3 in the postseason. And to be honest, I think this game is going to be an easy Boston Celtics victory. Even with Paul George being added to this team, the Celtics, they own Philly. They've always owned Philly, and they always will own Philly. Joel Embiid just can never, ever beat this team. He probably won't ever beat this team. And it's been happening since the beginning, and I don't expect it to change now. And especially considering that the Celtics are hosting the game, because Joel Embiid doesn't really play nearly as good as he plays at home. And it's the difference is staggering. But again, maybe now he'll get, the calls that he needs because, NBA rules are different than FIBA rules. But aside from that, I think that the Celtics are easily going to beat this team. Especially if they don't beat them now, they're going to beat them in the postseason. Now, next game, the Knicks. Now, the time between, I don't know exactly what time all of these games are going to happen because I don't think that's been decided, but they just decided, the teams that are going to be playing. So, Defensive Player of the Year, Victor Wembanyama. I refuse to call Rudy Gobert the Defensive Player of the Year because he's really not. He's not playing at all in these Olympics. Victor is playing more minutes than Rudy. And on top of that, Victor just was more valuable on the defense than Rudy Gobert was. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think of that. But Victor Wembanyama, they're going to figure out how to improve from their 21-61 record. They have newly acquired point guards, so I think that's going to be a very nice, that's going to be very good for Victor, and that's just going to be, it's going to set Victor up very well because let's face it, Jeremy Sohan, setting up Victor just wasn't working. I think he was jealous of Victor and all of his height and all of his glory and all of his talent because he wasn't giving him the ball at all. So, along with, adding Chris Paul into the lineup, they also traded for Harrison Barnes, and they also used their number 4 pick to get UConn guard and NCAA champion Stephon Castle, who is a very competent defender and is probably going to be tasked with the assignment of guarding Jalen Brunson. Now, the Knicks, meanwhile, they traded for Mikal Bridges, so now they have all of Villanova on the Knicks, which is, the Villanova Knicks might as well be what they call them. And they also were able to re-sign OG Anunoby to a long-term contract and free agent center Precious Achiuwa, forgive me if I messed up that last name, to a shorter-term deal, as well as extending Jalen Brunson. And, as you guys know, Jalen Brunson took a huge pay cut, which was beautiful, and brought aboard veteran point guard Cameron Payne for extra depth. So this matchup is going to be a very interesting matchup, and I think all of these games are really going to be interesting matchups. Aside from the Lakers and Denver, I think Denver is going to wipe the floor with them. So, fresh off of their first ever NBA Finals appearance with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, they're going to match up against the Timberwolves, who they beat in the Western Conference Finals, who Luka absolutely destroyed, and, it's just going to be a rematch, except this time Klay Thompson is going to be on the Dallas Mavericks, so now the Mavericks have even more help or even more hindrance, depending on how you look at it, and in this matchup. Now, obviously, Klay Thompson, future Hall of Famer, but opinions about him are rather mixed. And not to mention that, they also acquired young guard Quentin Grimes from the Pistons. Dallas also was able to sign free agent wing Najee Marshall on a 3-year deal. And after winning their first 2 playoff series in 20 years this spring, the Timberwolves, they traded for draft rights to Rob Dillingham, who is a fan favorite in that entire draft, and retained several of their own free agent players. So for the most part, their team hasn't really changed all that much. It wasn't really all that. They didn't really go through that many changes. While Golden State lost Klay Thompson, the Warriors pivoted on the perimeter, signing DeAnthony Melton and signing and trading free agent Kyle Anderson and Buddy Hield. The team is hoping for a rebound to finish as the West's number 10 seed and a quick play-in tournament exit. Obviously, they're trying to improve from that. And Denver, they let free agent starting shooting guard Kentavious Caldwell-Pope walk in free agency, but they did bring back Russell Westbrook. They did bring Russell Westbrook, I should say. So this is probably going to be a revenge game for him. If not, it's just going to be another 30-point game for Jamal Murray. And, all of these things and all of these matchups, they're going to be... I'm very excited for Christmas, especially now because NFL games are going to be happening on Christmas, so I'm going to be able to get the best of both worlds. It's just going to be great. Christmas is going to be fantastic. And they're doing a breakdancing competition in the Olympics. That's funny. Can you guys believe that breakdancing is a sport now? I can't believe it, but this is America. Actually, no, this isn't even America. This is the Olympics. It's crazy. But aside from that, we are out of time for this 3rd segment. So now I will go ahead and go into the 4th segment where I talk about D'Angelo Russell. And there's talks about a 3-team sign-and trade. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about that in the 4th segment right after this short break. So be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
My bad, there was a problem with the audio there for a second. And we are back with the 4th segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, I'm going to talk about a D'Lo trade. There is a 3-team trade in the works that, could potentially see D'Lo, leaving the Lakers, and, the Lakers trying to, acquire more talent, because let's face it, the Lakers have not done a single thing in this offseason. Of all the teams that has a disappointing offseason, it's always the Lakers. They always have a disappointing offseason. It never fails, never will fail, always will happen, and it's it's just awful. It's bleh. But anyways, aside from, my bias for LeBron James and me wanting to see him get another ring, I mean, as an analyst and as, just a fan, the Lakers, the only really good thing that they've done is get Dalton Knecht as the number 17th pick. That was the only good thing that they did. Aside from that, they've been idle throughout most of the offseason. They haven't done anything. And, the only other thing that they did aside from Knecht was allow D'Lo to, pick up his player option. And let's face it, nobody in LA wants D'Lo back in LA after his horrible, and I mean horrible, performance in the playoffs against Denver. Nobody wants him back on the roster. He forgot how to shoot. He forgot how to pass. He forgot how to dribble. He forgot how to play basketball. It was awful. And, it was a repeat of the other Russell that was on LA, Russell Westbrook. It was just a repeat of that. It was awful. And so they have a roster of 15 players and a payroll under the second apron, $188.9 million. By about $45,000, the Lakers have been stymied by the rules and the NBA's collective bargaining agreement. I'm just reading this off of an article, by the way. So the only way the Lakers can add is to subtract. And the one player LA seems most willing to part with is D'Angelo Russell. And quite frankly, I'm willing to part with him as well. Be gone. Get out of here. Meanwhile, the Charlotte Hornets, they have collected enough talented players that the goal shouldn't be bottoming out completely, but allowing players like LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Mark Williams, and rookie Jayson, the number 6 pick, to build winning habits. This fly is all over me, Jesus. Add the Jazz to opportunistically. I will get this fly, I swear. I apologize for the delay, but it's just this fly is all over and it's really annoying. So, as I was saying, the Jazz, they're opportunistically, they facilitate a deal, and a multi-team trade could help all parties, right? Because given how they recently signed Lauri Markkanen, they're going to need to have some talent to coincide with Lauri Markkanen eventually. So, the Lakers, they don't add a third star, but they get necessary depth, including the means to sign free agent guard Markelle Fultz? I've never seen this article, so it's this is the first time that I'm reading this. But Markelle Fultz, are you serious? The Hornets improve now, and along with the Jazz, add draft capital and an experienced point guard in Vasilije Micic. Forgive me if I completely botched that name. So here's the entire trade scenario. So the Lakers get Trey Mann from the Hornets, Nick Richards from the Hornets, $13 million trade exception from Russell, and $3 million trade exemption from Christian Wood. The Hornets would get Russell from the Lakers, Jalen Hood-Schifino from the Lakers, Cam Reddish from the Lakers, Christian Wood from the Lakers, second highest 2025 first rounder from Cleveland Cavaliers, Minnesota Timberwolves, or Jazz, and $1.1 million trade exemption from Richards. Now, the Jazz, they'll get Vasilije Micic and a 2031 projected first rounder via the Lakers. I think the Lakers are giving up way too much in this just off of details. Now, why the Los Angeles Lakers do it? Why are they willing to do it? In hiring J.J. Redick to coach the roster, the Lakers stress the importance of player development. The team needs to get younger and, frankly, cheaper with the new rules. Instead of chasing a 30-year-old vet on a heavy multi-year deal like Jeremy Grant, LA breaks Russell's contract into parts. Mann, 23, with the number 18 pick in 2021 and is a more ready point guard prospect than Hood Schifino. He's due an extension this summer, or the Lakers can wait for restricted free agency in 2025. Richards, 26, is a legit 7-foot center earning $10 million over the next 2 seasons. His second is non-guaranteed. So the Lakers thinned out some of the roster glut, sending out 4 players for 2. With the salary reduction, the team should be able to give Fultz, the best available free agent point guard, a $5.2 million starting salary via the taxpayer mid-level exception. Now, I'm going to stop the article right there. If you are trying to get Markelle Fultz on your team, don't. He is arguably a bigger bust than Ben Simmons. And that's not exaggerating. He was drafted number 1 by the Sixers, just like Ben Simmons. He was expected to be a very talented player, just like Ben Simmons. And just like Ben Simmons, he can't shoot. And it doesn't make any... I don't understand what is going on. Like, the Lakers, they are never going to win a championship like this. This is the worst job that a front office has done for LeBron. Oh, yeah. Even worse than when they were... Even worse than Cleveland. Way worse than his first stint in Cleveland. I don't care with that, LeBron didn't have help in there. He was able to make the playoffs way more times than he has with the Lakers, despite the fact that, it's awful. The way that the Lakers have been handling it is awful. And the fact that you have 2 all-star talents, 2 Hall of Famers, and you can't even make the finals with them is disgusting. It is appalling. And these Olympics are to show for it, because LeBron is still the best player in the league, and Anthony Davis is still one of the better bigs in the league. And it just shows that these two, when they play together, they're just the best. Period. Done. The team around them, awful. God awful. And signing Markelle Fultz, even worse, if that's even going to be the case. So, fixing the 2024-2025 Lakers in one trade is improbable, as the article says. The Lakers lose shooting with Russell, but he struggled to bring that consistently in the postseason anyway, so that doesn't really matter. Instead, the team adds depth at the point, size in Richards, and the financial roster flexibility to bring in additional players, be it at a minimum or up to $13.7 million via the Russell trade exemption. I'm not a fan of this deal. I'm really not a fan of this deal at all for the Lakers. If the idea of making a good team is replacing D'Angelo Russell with Markelle Fultz, no. Wow, it's raining over there in those Olympics. But anyways, yeah, no, that is an awful way to go about it. And I don't agree with this at all. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about it. I'm not going to talk about any of the other teams and, their stances because, quite ironically, I think those teams, they don't have any chance as it is. So this was just supposed to be about, the Lakers. So I'm just going to keep it about the Lakers. And yeah, that's really all that I have to say. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and go into the 5th and the final segment where I talk about the official FIBA MVP ladder. And given after, this was before the semifinal rounds, but again, I'm just going to go ahead and give off what I think about the ratings, what I think about the placements. Do I think, they deserve to be there, or, this, that, and the other? That's really what I'm going to be talking about. So be sure to tune in after this short break. And we are back with the fifth and the final segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this final segment, I know I forgot to change the title, I apologize for that, but I'm just going to be talking about the FIBA MVP poll. Now, this is going to be the official MVP poll and not really, the fans and just, their opinions on who should be the MVP, because now the official MVP polls are out, and there we go. I'm just going to leave that there just because I'm barely even going to use this slide anyway, because let's face it, we all want to see everyone's faces and we all want to see who exactly is leading in the polls. Obviously, LeBron James, like the only MVP, the only player that anyone needs, the only player, like the Sunshine, the GOAT, the greatest, the only player that should be in the MVP conversation if I'm being serious. Like, let's face it. This man, he's going to win the MVP. He is number one in the standings, and I mean, number one by a long shot. Like nobody else in the entire Olympics has done nearly as much as what this man has done. And the fact that he also was able to accumulate a triple-double definitely helps his standings in the ladder. And really, I have no complaints about this guy being number one, and nobody should. Second is Nikola Jokic. Now, obviously, aside from winning, being an issue, like everything else about his game is all there. Like without him, Serbia wouldn't have gone nearly as far as they have. And they have his performance to thank for, not losing to Australia. They also have the other performances that he's going to have in the bronze medal game, right? Like we still have to wait and see the results of the bronze medal game to see if he ends up helping Serbia win the bronze, like in a very big way. There's a possibility that he might win the FIBA MVP. But again, LeBron, it's very difficult to argue the MVP if you end up winning the gold and you're the best player and you win the gold. Next on the list is surprisingly not a member from Team USA. I thought it would be, but it's actually Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder for the German team. I mean, he's been playing phenomenally well for them, but I didn't really think he was playing that good enough to be considered or be in the top 3 for the MVP. But then again, when you compare him to everyone else on this list, he's arguably been the one that's been the most consistent. I mean, the rest of the players you'll see on this list, they haven't really been nearly as consistent as Dennis Schroeder has been for the German team. So, fourth on this list is Kevin Durant. And, I mean, I'm not really shocked to see Kevin Durant be on this MVP ladder, even though he does come off the bench. That is the only surprising part about it. The fact that he comes off the bench and he's still being considered for the MVP. That goes to show you just how great he is and just how, valuable he is for the United States. And really, I mean, there's no other player. I mean, maybe Anthony Edwards, but then again, in these past few games for Ant, he hasn't really had much of an impact for the United States. So, I don't think I mind having Kevin Durant in there. I genuinely don't think I mind, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Would you rather see somebody else in this spot? Would you rather see Anthony Edwards take this because he's had more consistent games and he's been playing a lot better than most of the players on the roster, or are you just fine with KD? Next on the list is Franz Wagner. Now, he was one of those players, I thought he didn't earn his contract for the Orlando Magic, but he is definitely showing just how good of a basketball player he really is in these Olympics. And I have no problem with him being at the 5 spot. He's been at the 5 spot for the longest time. And, he's been just a phenomenal player in these entire Olympics. He's not going to win the MVP because, there's still Dennis Schroeder. But, again, he's been great. Next on this list is Bogdan Bogdanovic. Again, he was insane in the recent game against the United States. So this is probably going to boost up his MVP ladder. This is, before these games, this ladder. So he might end up finishing in maybe 4th, taking Kevin Durant's spot. But again, I mean, the fact that he ended up losing, it's really going to be a challenge to win the MVP and be on the losing team. But, I mean, the fact that he was able to do what he did against the United States is nothing short of amazing. And yes, he is looking directly at Carmelo Anthony and doing his infamous 3 to the dome celebration. Like, that is what he's doing. That takes a lot of savagery, but thank the Lord that it ended up backfiring for him, because you do not disrespect the USA Melo and get away with it. Man, if Melo could lace up, oh my gosh, he would just jab, 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 shoot, jab, jab, pull up, just over this man's head. Like, no competition. Melo was that guy, especially on the Olympics. Now, next player on this list, Victor Wembanyama. He's been very lackluster in these Olympics. Like, he's been very underwhelming, and I didn't really expect him to be this underwhelming in the Olympics. He hasn't really been the reason that the team has gotten this far. It's more so the team has gotten this far, which is something that the United States has to be worried about, because if Victor goes off, along with the team going off, it could spell serious trouble for these guys. That's all I really wanted to say. And next is his French teammate, forgive me if I completely botched this name, because I still have no idea how to pronounce it. Guerschon Yabusele, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Forgive me if I just messed up that name entirely. He's been very, very productive for the French team, and very, very important for their wins in all of these games, actually. So I have no problem with him being in the 8th spot. Then Anthony Davis. He is 9th on this list, and, I'm kind of surprised to see him on this list, especially after the lackluster performances that he's had. I would have much rather liked to see somebody else on the poll, but then again, the fact that Canada ended up losing in the first round and nobody ended up playing really well at all isn't really going to, help any of those players in the MVP standings. And finally, Daniel Theis. Daniel Theis, he's been a little bit of a surprise for the German team. Aside from Franz Wagner and Dennis Schroeder, Daniel Theis has been one of the better options for the team. Now, notice how every single player on this list that I mentioned was a player that ended up qualifying or on the teams that ended up qualifying to compete for a medal. There's not a single team or a single player on this list that is in the MVP ladder, right, and isn't qualifying for a medal. Germany, they're qualifying for bronze, same with Serbia, and the French, along with the United States, they're qualifying for the gold. So it really, I think the MVP is it's a little bit similar to how it is for the NBA, where it's it's mainly awarded to the best player on the best team or the best player on a winning team. And just off of that assumption, I'm going to make the very bold assumption that LeBron is going to be the winner of the MVP in this FIBA, and that's just going to be another thing to add to his ridiculous legacy. I mean, I don't remember Michael Jordan winning FIBA MVP, but then again, I could be completely wrong. This was before my time, so again, no, I don't remember. I don't have any memory of that time. And I mean, this is just going to add on to his legacy as, going along with his finals MVPs, as well as, just regular MVPs as a whole. I mean, the fact that he hasn't won a single NBA MVP in a very long time is ridiculous in my opinion. I think it's almost unacceptable, the fact that he hasn't won an MVP in a while. Now, hold on just 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and I'm looking at the list of the MVPs, the FIBA World Cup MVPs, and there hasn't been, Jordan doesn't have one. I don't think Jordan has one, because the FIBA World Cup, right? Shaq won it in '94, and in '98, somebody named Dejan Bajroga for Yugoslavia ended up winning it in '98. Then in 2002, Dirk Nowitzki ended up winning it. Then in 2006, Pau Gasol ended up winning it. 2010, Kevin Durant won it. 2014, Kyrie Irving won it. 2019, Ricky Rubio won it. And in 2023, Dennis Schroeder for Germany ended up winning it in the end. And at least, according to this website. Now, I have no problem with the MVP winners on this list. And to be honest, I mean, the Olympic Games MVPs, so I'm just looking at them right now. The most recent one for 2021 was Kevin Durant for the United States. And obviously, I mean, it's just like, was this the only... I'm not entirely sure if this is a new thing, because I don't see any other years where where the Olympic game MVPs have been handed out. So I think this is a relatively new thing. But aside from that, this just shows the longevity that LeBron James has had throughout the majority of his career. Like, he played for so long that he was able to not only, win all these new awards that have been introduced in the NBA, but also win these new awards introduced in the Olympics. Like, that just shows how ridiculous his longevity is. And aside from that, that's really all I have on this final segment, and that's all I have for the show. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as I said before, we love hearing what you guys have to say, whether you have a burning question or a hot take, or you've just been something that you wanted to get off your chest. This is the show that's all about keeping the conversation lively and making sure that your voice is a part of the mix. And to make sure that your comment gets noticed, or if you want a question that gets noticed, use Super Chat. Just hit the $ below the chat box, send your message, and it's guaranteed to get featured on the show. It's a great way to support the channel, really helps the show, and your Super Chats help keep the lights on and bring you even more of the content that you love. And also, if Super Chat isn't really your thing, you can always use the link displayed below the ticker or the link in the description, gsmcsports.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive. You can tip, donate, and leave your comment or question. We appreciate every little bit of support that we can get. Thank you so much for tuning in. And, just before I end this off, I should remind everybody that the finals for the Olympics are going to be held on Saturday. The bronze game is going to be held at 5 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, and the gold medal game is going to be at around 3 o'clock Eastern time for any of you guys that are interested. So be sure to tune into those games. I'm definitely going to tune in. Thank you so much for tuning into this podcast as well. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.